But the number one thing everyone wants to know is the action of what the do I do now, right? Like, let's say I had a tumultuous relationship with a sibling growing up, and now as an adult, I would like to have a closer, more cohesive relationship. And so what do you think is the best? What would you recommend?
I think first doing your own internal work around the pain that you have from your sibling relationship growing up. I think that's really important because just as we said, you know, we talk a lot about how parenting can affect us growing up and how maybe we didn't get our needs met, but also having a difficult sibling relationship can have such an effect on us. We carry that with us. We might carry it into our adult relationships without even realizing it. We don't really consider the effect that that can have on the way in which we see these models of relationships in our adult life. So I think being very present with yourself to say, okay, how did my sibling relationship affect my relationships as an adult? How might that be playing a role? How did the role that I was taking in my sibling relationships affect the role that I play in my adult relationship? So I think the awareness around how it may have played a role and may still play a role in your adult relationships, and also how you feel when you actually see that sibling, whether they're around or not. If they're not around, right, how do you grieve that relationship, or like what does that look like? So I think it all starts first with doing some of your own internal work as an adult.
And then I wonder what it would be like to directly say to your sibling, hey, I'd like us to be closer.
It's vulnerable.
Do you have any interest in that too? Would you like to go bowling together?
Bowling?
I picked an activity.
Do you like bowling?
No, but I just feel like sometimes like dinner is too vulnerable.
Yeah.
Sitting across from each other. Well, you sit next to your husband.
I love sitting next. We're that couple.
I know you are.
I love it.
But I feel like when you're right, like one of the things we recommend when you're trying to move to the next stage in a relationship is like doing activities, making new memories together, right? Going to see a museum exhibit, going to bowling, going to the movies, right? Like there's things you can do that's not just like going out to eat and not drinking. Now let's talk about how sometimes what people will do is triangulate something in to diffuse the stress and anxiety. So what they'll do is they'll bond over talking shit on their parents, or they'll bond over drinking together, right? Those are all types of triangulation, and it might work at the beginning, but then there's going to be a come down from that because it doesn't actually help you make those strong, fulfilling bonds. When you're like, especially when it's like a talking shit type of situation, then you just start to be like, oh, well, then what's he saying to the other person?
Right.
So like, think about how do I, if I really genuinely want to go deeper in this relationship, have us become closer, what are the things we're going to do that's in a healthy way, not just what feels like easy and fun.
Right. And like bowling might be a good triangulation. You're like triangulating the bowling.
Well, yeah, because you're like, okay, I'm going to go. So, like, you don't have to talk the whole time. That's what I mean. Like, you can do an activity when you're going to a museum, look at the art, look at something like that.
Triangulate the art.
Right. Have something else to talk about that's not, like, somebody else in our life or, like, bonding over, like, the gossip part of it.
Right. And you are developing. So, the goal is to develop a different type of relationship in adulthood than what you had when you were a kid.
Okay.
If those relationships were difficult, right? Like, And I think that transition can be hard, making that transition into, okay, well, how do I develop a different type how do I get to know this person as an adult and really be able to bond with them like I would bond with others?
Yeah. How do you make a relationship? The same way, how would you make a friendship, right? It's going to take some time. It doesn't mean that it feels the most comfortable at the beginning, but when you actively and intentionally try, that's where the growth comes from.